All right, welcome back to the channel. We've got another 25 book submission back from CGC just this morning. Excited to do a grand unveiling. As I alluded to in the last video, if you watched toward the end, there is a comic here that's had a great result. It basically was an upgrade by CGC, so I had to pay a little bit extra because it got put into a higher price tier. Looking forward to showing you which one that is. What I'm going to do is what I normally do. I will go through all 25 books, but we'll do 13, the first 13 in this part of the video, because they're all Amazing Spider-Man. So we'll go through from 140 through to the last one, which is 361. I will tell you what work I did, what I paid for it, what grade I'm expecting, what grade I got. I will unveil it, and we'll see if we actually do all right this time. I did actually keep the books with me this time and get the video done nice and early so that I could actually get this done without it being a retrospective. So I've got the slabs here ready to go. So let's get started. So first off the chopping block, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 140, actually from January 1975. So that's actually the literal cutoff for a modern submission from CGC's perspective. Even though it was published, I believe, late 74. It's dated as the January 75 issue. A great book, classic book. Bought this from a Whatnot seller. In fact, 6 of the books from this submission were from this Whatnot seller and 15 from another. So from 25, 2 sellers represent 21 books. I paid $59 for this and it presented beautifully. I mean, you can see it, sharp corners, no ticks really to speak of. It just looked magnificent. I received it and I was disappointed to see there were a couple of small gouges on the back cover. A couple of small ticks near the spine, which is fine because otherwise it is immaculate. It's unfortunate. I paid $59 and I thought it would come in around the 9s. So 9, maybe 9.2, just because of those 2 gouges on the back. I sent it to CGC and came back and they said 9.4. So a little bit higher than I was hoping for, which is great. A great way to kick off. Their greater notes are actually spine stress lines, there were a couple, and creases to the top of the front cover. So that's pretty much what I saw, a couple of those gouges, obviously greater than those creases. More than happy to have that at 9.4. Moving on to Amazing Spider-Man 204, Newsstand Edition. This one cost me $29 and I thought it was in really, really nice condition. It had a couple of negligible ticks and a small tear to the front cover on the right edge. I can't see it here, but I remember looking at it when I was going through everything and going, oh, it's just there. How's that going to grade? But after I cleaned it and pressed it, it almost disappeared. It was just that small a tear. And I thought it's going to look great. It might come back somewhere 9.6 with an outside chance for 9.8. So for a $29 book, for a book from 1980 like that with the black cat on the cover, that was great. So sent it to CGC, hopeful of a 9.6 to 9.8, and received 9.6. So on the lower range, but definitely in the range of where it should be. It's not like a 9.4. And they just quoted, I believe it was just stress lines. Yeah, just spine stress lines. Fantastic book. I think it's the 3rd appearance of the Black Cat. So yeah, great. Next up is Amazing Spider-Man 220. A great cover. You can see it's a Moon Knight. I think it's one of the early team-ups between Moon Knight and Spider-Man. I paid $27 for this one from the seller that was looking to liquidate part of their collection. When it arrived, it had some light tanning and foxing on the back cover, which I worked through. And there was a tick on the front cover. I remember it was quite stubborn. It was sort of around here. It just sort of came up and just kept reappearing and reappearing. It was just really hard to keep down. I pressed it quite a few times. I also did some foxing removal on the back cover to clean it. I thought it came out looking great. In fact, it was so great, I thought it was going to be a 9.8. So I sent it off to CGC, hopeful of a 9.8, and they had a look at it. 9.8. Fantastic result. So this is quite a nice book to get in 9.8, especially because of the black. The white wrap helps a little bit. Yeah, so I can't even see that tick now. I must have managed to fully control it, which is fantastic. And the back cover looks great. It's nice and clean, no foxing whatsoever. So great outcome. First 9.8 for the submission. Next up, Amazing Spider-Man 221 in direct edition. When I received it, it only cost me $8, including shipping. It looked good, except there was a bit of wear near the top staple. And it looked like a little rip of some sort. You might be able to see it here if I zoom in. So you might be able to see it there. Basically, I thought, oh, that's really going to hold it back. It's not particularly high value in a 9.8. But then I did a bit of research and found that almost every other 9.8 I saw had the very same little rip. So I thought it must be a standard manufacturing defect on this copy. So I took the risk and pushed ahead. It was an $8 book. Cleaned it, pressed it, came out looking good except for that little issue. Sent it to CGC, hoping for a 9.8, looking for a 9.8. 9.8. So 2 9.8s in a row. Not particularly high value, but nice to turn an $8 book into a 9.8 slab for Amazing Spider-Man from 1981. So a couple of great outcomes there. Moving on to Amazing Spider-Man 225 Newsstand Edition. I love the yellow cover on this. I actually love all yellow covers on these books. I've never really been able to get one in a high grade enough for this to really warrant a submission. So I was happy to get this one for $19. When it arrived, it had a newsstand crunch on the back cover, and 2 light scratches remain with a possible, I thought it had just had a little bit of gloss still missing. A small stain on the back cover near the top of the spine, which I cleaned it, but it was mostly off. So it was looking pretty good. And I was hopeful of a 9.6. I thought with the little issues on the gloss removal, that was going to limit it. Sent it to CGC expecting a 9.6, and I got a 9.0. So that was really disappointing and surprising. So I looked at the grader notes. And spine stress lines, yeah, maybe. I don't think so, honestly. Fingerprints right center of the front cover. And I was like, are you serious? I looked at the picture before it arrived, and they are spot on. You can see them along this side here. And so I'm going to actually be cracking this slab open, and I'm going to resubmit it. I can get rid of those fingerprints. I don't know if I was sloppy or I missed it, one or the other, but this book deserves better and it will get better. So for the 25 book submission, this is the only one that I'm going to be resubmitting. Moving on to Amazing Spider-Man 226 Newsstand Edition. Love my Newsstand editions. Only cost me $12, and it has some negligible text, so I thought the spine was pretty clean. There were some bends and things on the back cover, and I thought they came out. I thought they came out without creasing. And there was also, if you'll note, there's a bit of rub on the black cat's leg here, on her leg. Just there, you can see it looks like it's rubbed off. I initially thought there was a bit of tape pull and it was damaged, and I almost didn't submit this book thinking that was going to be an issue. But I looked at some other 9.8s, and this seems to be a standard manufacturing defect in some issues, but it definitely appeared elsewhere. So I pushed on, and I thought it had a bit of a small binder issue on the bottom of the spine, fairly clean otherwise, but wasn't sure it was going to be a 9.8. I was expecting it to sort of come back with a 9.6, maybe with a 9.8. Yeah, so submitted to CGC, and they came back and said 9.2. Ouch. So 2 really awful results, one after the other, after expecting 9.8s. And they've quoted crease on the bottom of the front cover and crease on the left bottom of the back cover. So there have been a couple of creases and I've missed them. Bottom of the front cover, okay, maybe. But it's creases I think I've historically they've been right about, and I've just missed them. So that's a bit of a shame on me. Moving on to Amazing Spider-Man 230 Newsstand Edition. an amazing Juggernaut cover. I believe it's John Romita Jr. So this one came in, it cost me $13, and I thought the only issue was, again, a bit of a small bindery issue on the bottom of the spine. It was fairly clean. I pressed it a few times and got all the ticks out, and I was careful because it's got that black and white cover and it can be really tricky to see things at times. I thought it came out really well, but I wasn't sure it was going to make a 9.8. So I've got a 9.6 to 9.8 for $13 this book cost me in great condition newsstand. I sent it to CGC hoping for a 9.6 or better. 9.8. So this is one of the bigger outcomes from this submission. These books from this one seller have done really well. This is a over $400 book in a newsstand edition, very desirable, and it looks immaculate. It just looks great in the slab. So that's going to go really quickly. Great outcome, $13 to $400. Moving on to Amazing Spider-Man 251. So a couple of ordinary results followed by an amazing one. And now this was an $8 book that looked new. It turned up, it looked new. I cleaned it and lightened it a little bit with a bit of bled, just to give it a bit of pop. And I thought it was going to come back as a 9.8. So I sent it to CGC and they said 9.2. So that's disappointing again. So let's see what's happened with this one. 251, 9.2. Light crease on the left top of the back cover. Left top of the back cover. Oh yes, I remember this. So there was a bit of like rippling there, and I thought it might have been a manufacturing defect, but apparently not. So that's cost me a bit of a grade, but that's okay. And there's nothing we can do about that one. So we'll have to move on. All right, next book, Amazing Spider-Man 258 Direct Edition. So another book from the seller who was liquidating his collection, and it cost me $15. Came in looking really good. I thought it had a light tick or two, which I thought would be graded negligible. And yeah, it basically gave it a nice press. It looked pretty good. Hard to tell on this cover with all the bits and pieces. I gave it a good look. Sent to CGC, hopeful of a 9.8. 9.6. So a couple of disappointing results for some of these books. The one with fingerprints aside. Just very light spine stress lines. So maybe I just need another press. Oh yeah, I can see them too. Damn. Yeah, so if this was a more valuable book, I could potentially repress that and submit it. But I think that'll do for this one. And again, just a matter of being a bit more careful. Yeah, it's disappointing. I think that could have been fixed up. Moving on. Amazing Spider-Man 298, newsstand edition. If you've watched my show before, you'll know this is my very favourite cover, Todd McFarlane, legend. This is, it's got personal significance to me. Again, not my issue, or rather not my copy of this book, I should say. One I picked up from the very same seller. It cost me a little bit more. It cost me $83. I have trouble turning down this book. And when it turned up, it had a few small ticks down the spine and a bit of staining and tanning on the front cover. But I thought I'd be able to fix that. The problem was that on the back, there was a finger bend crease with a small tear along the edge. So that's not fixable. That was disappointing. I thought it was going to come back somewhere after I fixed it, pressed it, removed the stains and tanning, in that VF plus range, so an 8 at 8.5. So I think I got to a stage where I was expecting an 8.5 to be a good outcome for this book. So I sent it to CGC and they said 9.0. So that's a nice little bump, especially to get it into the near mint. I think it's great to have this book in any condition, really. As you know, I love it. See if I can spot the small tear. Yeah, so if you look there, you can see there's a small tear. That was the only real issue. And the greater notes are very light spine stress lines and a very light crease left top of back cover. So I don't think that's right. There is a little crease there. But I think the tear is really what did it. I doubt they missed that. Moving on to another McFarlane classic cover. Amazing Spider-Man 310 in newsstand edition with the black cover, very hard to deal with and do well with. It is advantaged by the fact that it has that white stripe going down the spine from the wrap coming around a bit, which I liked. So this book cost me a grand total of $9, and it came with some tanning and a little bit of light foxing, especially on the back, which is a lighter color. The bottom staple was a little bit loose and strangely positioned, so I thought that was going to hold it back to about a 9.6 after I cleaned up all that tanning, because it came out looking fantastic. Otherwise, pressed it, make sure there weren't any ticks, because it has a fair bit of value in the higher grades. So I sent to CGC a $9 book, expecting a 9.6. 9.8. That is a fantastic book to get in a 9.8 newsstand edition. It's got a fair bit of value again in that $400 range somewhere. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep this or not, but that's a great result. Yep. Moving on, there are only 2 books left from the Amazing Spider-Man part of the submission, which would be the first 13 books of the 25. And here we have First Carnage, Amazing Spider-Man 361 newsstand edition. I have featured this book before a few times. It cost me $108. Both of the next books were from the same seller. It had a small crease, non-color breaking crease on the top of the back cover near the spine. I wasn't sure what might have caused it. I tried to fix it up and soften it. Couldn't get rid of it completely. I thought it looked pretty good otherwise. So I sent to CGC expecting about a 9.6. I was going to take a loss, maybe a slight profit on it. CGC had a look at it and they said 9.4. So a little bit lower than I was expecting or hoping for. And then notes are bend on the right bottom of the back cover, spine stress lines, crease bottom of front cover, crease bottom of front cover. I don't see a crease anywhere. So I don't know what that's about. Oh, yeah, okay. So there's a small, tiny crease on his knee, if you can see it. So I must have missed that, or maybe it was added later, shall we say? But let's assume it's me, because I'm often the one in the wrong at the moment. So, yeah, otherwise a nice copy of a 9.4 newsstand edition First Carnage. So last book in the submission is another Amazing Spider-Man 361 direct edition. So this is from the same seller and cost me $106, so $2 less than the newsstand edition, and I thought it was a sharp, clean copy. Corners looked amazing. The spine has a little bit of miswrap, but it's not really anything that'll get graded down. I couldn't really find any serious issues on this book at all. Cleaned it, pressed it, make sure it looked fantastic. Sent it to CGC, hopeful of a 9.8. $9.8. So really, really happy to have First Carnage in a 9.8 direct. So, and that concludes the first part of this video, the first 13 books of the 25 book submission, which were all Spider-Man. From 140 through to 361. Some really, really great results, but wait till the next bit. So in part 2, we'll do the last 12 books, and one of those books got a grade bump. Got a price bump up into the next tier, and I'm really, really excited to show you which one it was. So look forward to seeing you then. Take care.